Perfect.
This call is now being recorded.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, how you doing, Ryan?
Good to see you. You just got us at the beginning of this, so I'm about to start presenting.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we were out at a restaurant actually, and then I saw it come through on my cell phone, so just made it back in time.
Cool. All right, and yeah, just FYI, we're recording, so.
Yeah, I saw that. No worries.
Okay, I'm gonna present. All right. Slideshow mode. All right, cool. And you able to see my screen all right? All right, cool. All right. Thanks for joining. We talk about ActiveStorage here. So agenda for tonight, we're gonna talk about what ActiveStorage is, how to do the database setup and model setup, followed by the cloud, like the Amazon S3 setup, and then how to do any file transformations and ultimately render. And then I put a demo at the end, but I might actually jump back and forth between some code and a demo app that I put together, just to kind of point out things and explain as well. So what is ActiveStorage? ActiveStorage is the Rails, it's a built-in Ruby on Rails system for managing files. Specifically, it handles file processing, but its main thing is being able to associate files with data. So you might have an order that has many photos of the order, or the most common use case is like a user has an avatar, and you want to associate these files with the data instead of just blindly uploading files and having to manage links. This system gives you that file data relationship, and it also handles the cloud storage system. So majority of the time, your files don't live on the same server as the web server. Typically, we're uploading them to a separate cloud environment. I'd say Amazon S3 is the most popular, but you can also they also support Google Cloud and Microsoft Azure. So database references. When you set up ActiveStorage, there's an installer that you get, and you can, when you run that, it gives you database migrations for 3 different tables. So you have ActiveStorage blobs, ActiveStorage attachments, ActiveStorage variant records. So we'll discuss what those are here in the next few slides. So blobs is basically the direct information on the file. So if you upload a JPEG image, for example, the name of the JPEG, the file type, which is a JPEG, the date that you added it, any dimensions or byte size, and then if you upload it to a cloud service, what that access key is, so that it can be retrieved later. So if it is on a cloud, like you're not once the file is uploaded to the cloud, the Rails server is actually going to discard it from the server, so it won't be accessible in memory, and if you need to access it again, you'll have to download it. And this blob record it contains the reference to that, so you can re-download it. And then the attachments table is what's used to associate that blob with other data items. So if you have a blob with ID 1234, you have another record, say menu item, with an ID of 4321. The attachment is just a record to link those two together. So say we look at this menu item later, we can see what attachments it has, and use that as a reference, an easy reference point. Variant records are similar to the blobs, but a common use case is you'll upload a photo and you'll need to generate multiple versions of it. So say you need a thumbnail image that's like 50 by 50 pixels, and then you need like a main original version. Those would be two separate variants, and those will either be at upload time. Those will either be generated immediately or they'll be generated later. But the variant record, this has that access identifier, so it'd be like a variation digest. So in your Rails model, you'll use this key, and it has one attached avatar. So this would be like your users table, and you can name the file anything you want, but like you want it to be something that's you'll remember to access, I guess. So you can do like a one-to-one. One user has one avatar, but you can also do many. So a menu item has many photos. Any questions on this so far? All right. So cloud setup. Usually you're going to want to, so by default, when you set this up, your files are saved to the local server. But if you do that, you have to actually keep in mind your disk space. And so usually you want to configure this to upload to cloud storage. So Rails provides a config storage YML. I'll actually show that. I'll jump out of the demo here, and we can look at a config storage. And you get configurations for different environments. So there's like you have a test environment, which just puts it in a temp folder. So when you're done, it just deletes that. If you're testing in a local environment, then it just puts it in a storage folder. You can also change this to be like Amazon or Google or Microsoft.
Just as a
Sorry?
one question on the code, if you could go back to it 1 second, just
Yes.
something I saw. That bit about, yeah, there's just a note there saying, remember not to check in your CCS key file to a repository.
Yeah.
You obviously want to keep that on your main machine then. Is that right?
That's right. So typically these will be like environment variables. So here that looks like they're reading out like credentials. I forget what this actually points to, but what I usually do is, like, let's say we use the Amazon one. I have a .env gem, so which I can do something like env. What was this? It was like the access key, secret access key.
Yeah, it says that below.
Open up my .env box. I have my real secrets in there, but there's a .env file that you can create, and it maps to these keys.
Right.
And so at initialization time, it will read from this, and every environment that you deploy your app to, you'll have to add a .env file. And if you use a platform service like Heroku, you can actually go to an environment variables page and set your environment variables.
Right.
And your application is entirely independent of the environment variables. So like you can push this code to GitHub safely. You can let people read it. They won't have access to your secrets. And the reason, especially something like AWS, is it's a paid service. So if anyone has these keys, they can take those keys and have access to uh, your AWS folder.
Yeah. So you got to be real careful.
Mhm. Good call out though.
That was.
I'll show you how this is set up.
Right.
Okay, so we covered the storage YML. Say your service of choice in each environment's config file. So yeah, it's actually I forgot to mention. I think you can actually do this in config development, for example. So each environment has its own file, and I could say so I may have misdescribed this a little bit. So these are the different storage options. So you can have test, which is putting the files in this temp folder. You have local, which is just putting it in the root folder /storage. But you can also actually enable these, and based on the environment. So you run Rails in development environment locally, you run it in production environment in production, and when you're running your test files, it'll run in test. So here in line 37, I have ActiveStorage.service is local. So this is saying when I run my development server and I upload files, it's going to point to, it's going to read the storage file, and it's going to say, store the files on the disk in this storage folder. And this is highly configurable. You can make your own storage folder. But this is in reference to the Rails root folder. And if you do go with AWS S3 or Google Cloud, there's usually going to be a secondary gem that you'll have to install to manage the API interaction. So Rails knows which providers to use, but it doesn't actually include the libraries to upload and download over the API. So AWS provides their own gem for that. And I believe the others do as well. So I'll actually show you a little bit of the documentation. I think they describe the Amazon. Maybe they don't specify the exact gems. Yeah, they mentioned for S3 in particular, you have to install that. Okay. Go back to my slides. So actually adding an attachment. So a few slides ago, I showed you a user model has one. A user has one attached avatar. So these functions here, attach. So this is saying any file that you upload, you can call user.avatar, which is just like a representation of that file, and you can call this even if you don't have a file attached yet. So I'm pointing this out because it could be misleading to say user avatar, but you don't actually have one yet. But it's just saying that think of it like a box for your attachments. So in this case, you can the avatar box can be empty. You can have one. So we're saying attach one file to this, and when you do that, it's going to take the file, upload it to S3 if applicable, or upload it to local storage. And if you have many, so menu item.photos, you can do the same thing, attach, and then you can actually call an attached question mark method to see if the file is there or not. And if it's multiple, and you call this, then if If there's at least one, that will return true. If it's empty, it won't return anything, or will return false. And then yeah, these view helpers. So if you're using ERB files in your if you're using Rails forms, ERB files, you can use form file field avatar. And I'll show you that later on. And this just gives you a browse button with an upload prompt, so you can browse for a file and upload it. And then if the file is an image, you can actually render the file using this image tag here. So you just pass in like the user.avatar into this image tag. And I'll show this later as well. So if you need to get a link for the file afterwards, you can use a URL for helper, and once again, you pass in the user.avatar. And that's good if you want to just get the URL and pass that along in like an API response, or you need to pass it along to the user. Maybe they need to download the file directly, and this is how they would be able to do that. But if you just need to get the file downloaded to the server, so it could do some processing or other things with it, you can actually explicitly call download on it. And then finally, for deleting, there's a purge function. This example works, user.avatar purge, because there's only one in a one-to-one relationship. If it's a one-to-many, say user had many avatars, you'd have to do something like user.avatars.each and go through each one to purge it. And usually you'd actually have a reference by ID to it when you're doing this. So that's something to keep in mind, but not too important yet. They also have a purge all function. So if you did want to simply delete all the files associated with this record, you can do that too. They don't document it that well, so it may not be supported in many recent versions of Rails. I don't know how far back it goes, but I did see this available in Rails 7, so it might be helpful. And this is something I'm showing later too, but the file field helper on the form, its purpose is to let you upload new files. So if you think about a CRUD app where you have a create, read, update, delete, if you go to a new form and you want to upload a file, you can do that along with the rest of your data. But if you then go to the edit page, you'll see all the other fields related to your data all filled in, but you won't see the file that you originally uploaded, because that file field helper's purpose is to upload new files. So you'll have to manually show your files another way and provide some options for deleting them. And I wrote a small solution here to has a little bit of JavaScript, but I'm going to explore that later because I have a demo that will include this. So transformations. So it's common to, especially with images, to when a file is uploaded, save it as multiple variants. And that is done using local system libraries. Common ones are, I'd say the most common one is ImageMagick. ImageMagick and libVIPs are the most common ones, and Rails 7 actually uses libVIPs. Older versions of Rails used ImageMagick. I believe this is configurable, but something to keep in mind. Something that I always stumble upon with ActiveStorage is remembering to install these libraries, because there's gems that are behind them, but the gems themselves rely on installing these tools locally to your system. So if you're on a Mac, you'll probably do something like brew install ImageMagick, or might be called something different actually outside the gem. but you have to remember to install these tools.
Is ImageMagick by any chance just to do with Apple computers? I've heard the term before, but never actually seen it on anything done on Linux. Or is it just a general all-purpose one that would do an Apple machine, Linux machine, or Microsoft?
Great question. Let's look at the documentation for ImageMagick.
ImageMagick, from what I understand, is actually pretty. It's old. It's been around for a long time. You can use it on a lot of different computers. I know you can use it on Linux because I have in the past, and Mac. Mac, of course, has it. Windows, I don't know. I haven't used Windows for years.
Yeah, same here. I just use Linux, but I've never come across ImageMagick at all in anything I've done on Linux. That was why I was wondering if it was an Apple specific. But from the sounds of it, you're saying it can be used on Linux as well.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it can.
Linux, Windows, and Mac.
Oh right.
Yeah, it's been around for a while. ImageMagick is, I don't know when it was born, but
I know there's an ImageMagick gem, I believe, or Magic.
Ah, right.
And I think this is what Rails used to use. I think, so they use another one now, Rails 7, but any of these image processing gems, you'll see that usually somewhere in the documentation, you'll see you have to install you have to install the library first. So here, install
Right.
image. Or if you're on Linux, you do, APK sudo apt-get install. So here's ImageMagick.
Yeah, that would be mine, the sudo apt-get, because I use Linux Mint.
Yeah. So I just want to point out once more that if you're using Rails 6 or earlier, I think it's gonna be ImageMagick, and you may have to install this gem.
Right.
I forget. If you're using Rails 7, it's this libVIPs. So
right. I'm on Rails 7 on my machine.
So I had to install this image processing gem, and then I had to manually install libVIPs.
Huh. I've never heard of that.
This is this is probably just the last 6 months that they switched over to this.
Okay.
I never heard of it before either. I was messing with this last week, and I was why are the VIPs error? I thought I was using ImageMagick, and I do install this, and it worked.
Just out of curiosity, do you know if you could is this mandatory? But if you want to use ActiveStorage, do you have to use libVIPs, or is it configurable or no?
I think it is configurable because their documentation still mentions ImageMagick. Yeah, they require libVIPs or ImageMagick.
Okay, that means it should be
this gem that controls that. So let's look at the image processing gem. I'm guessing this has some configs for install ImageMagick or libVIPs. And I don't see I don't see any options for configuring it. Which is there probably is a way to tap into this though and set which one you want to use. Maybe you just require which one you want to use within a Rails initializer.
That would make sense.
But it looks like they probably on the Rails side they probably switch from Magic to VIPs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's weird. They do say you can use either or. Does it have any more details?
VIPs
ImageMagick is better now and more widely available.
Yeah, I saw that either or. Does that mean you have to just load one or the other, or you could do both?
It's
Pretty sure you can
Rob.
leave both installed, but I think that's what we're trying to figure out if you can actually use one or the other. Like you can customize it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't actually say here. So.
Ah,
Yeah, it's something worth looking into.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very interesting topic. One of the reasons I decided to give this talk is that Rails documentation page. It has some details, but if you follow along, like you'll quickly run into errors like related to image processing and especially if you're using S3 to store. Sometimes you have to give it the right read-write permissions on the AWS side. So that's something they don't really document.
Oh, fun.
Uh,
Yeah, security in AWS and all that stuff is definitely a sticky wicket, if you will.
Yeah, I remember the first time I dealt.
yeah, I don't know whether this is relevant in this case, but if you ever want to change an image extension or change it to something else, GIMP is really good for that.
Can you
Yeah,
actually change an extension and like have it saved
well,
to the
maybe not change an extension, but save a certain. Like, for example, I was sent a photo from an Apple iPhone, and Linux couldn't read it, so I went on GIMP and just converted it to a different type of image,
Oh,
and
okay.
then read it that way.
Re-export it.
I don't know whether that's, as I say, I don't know whether that's relevant in this situation, but it is a good quick way of doing it because they have so many different image variations you can convert to. It's really, really flexible.
Yeah, I might explore that because I know at work we have mobile apps that upload images to our servers, and they can be like various different formats, and they always end up saving it so it's what they're renderable. But
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I actually have a few YouTube videos. I don't have a lot of videos on my YouTube, but there's one on changing the actual image like that. If you want to check it out at all, my YouTube channel is Mike Ward 773.
okay, yeah, I'll have to check that out. Something I haven't really spent much time with, like image transformations, but
Yeah, you can literally do that probably in about a minute. You know, it's a pretty easy thing to do to just change it. You just open the file and then export it as something else.
gotcha. So creating variants, as I mentioned before, like you can upload a file and then you can manually save it to like different sizes. So here would be we'd already have an avatar uploaded, but then we would call this variant function and give it a resize to limit. There's other options you can pass in here based off of what your file is and what you're trying to do with it, but this is one of the common ones I see is you want to resize the original to something else. So this has multiple purposes. When you call this, it will return the image in that variant. If you're calling it the first time, it will create that variant and save it to S3 or local. If you call it again a second time, it's going to retrieve that variant. And that's what the variance table is used for. So this can be done multiple ways. You can call it when needed, but you can also define it in the model and give it a name. So if you have a 100 by 100, or I guess a thumbnail would usually be a little bit smaller than this, but you can give it a name, thumb, and then the action that you want it to do. And then when you need to render it, you just call it user.avatar variant thumb. This is more like a syntax helper there, and it gives you a nice clean place to define all your variants. And I guess, yeah, that's all the slides I had. Go into a little bit of a demo. Any questions on this so far? And as this is like this is a big topic that I understand it's easy to use, but it's like the concept itself is a lot of tooling going on here. So definitely open to answering any questions on this.
It certainly seems pretty flexible, looking at the way you can pull the image in and then automatically have a thumbnail added if you want to, because that's typical on a lot of forms that you do need a thumbnail and a main picture quite often.
Right. And, usually if let's say you're uploading an avatar, I'd say that's one of the most common actions on a web app. You're usually uploading a pretty large file, maybe like 700 pixels or more.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
They don't necessarily want that large file stored. So that's where the create different areas. Usually it's like an avatar, you just need to display a small thumbnail on the profile, right? So
Yeah.
like Slack where you upload your avatar. You never need to see the original thing. So
Sorry.
Do you have a question?
It was more just I just was curious about your opinion on this. Like, could you mention? I know you mentioned like there were issues that you ran into when reading the documentation on the Rails guides about this, which kind of alarmed me a little bit because it's a lot of people are using Rails, in production applications and things along those lines. And if you're running into problems with that, it just begs the question like how stable do you view ActiveStorage? Like, do you view it as something that you'd be perfectly fine with using in a production environment, or do you think it's needs some like more beta kind of thing? Like, in other words, like if you had to make a decision today, like do I use ActiveStorage or do I use something else like Carrier Wave or something else? Like what would you decide?
That's a great question. I would still use ActiveStorage, just because the image processing is stable. The API interactions are stable. A lot of it is just understanding the syntax and understanding what the errors mean. I think this just needs better documentation around errors. Because if you just, kind of follow along with this and, okay, maybe you add the image processing gem. This doesn't explicitly tell you that you need the backing. I mean, it kind of does, but it's kind of implied that if you install this, then you get this, which is false. So you end up, first time you do this, if you're totally new, you end up adding image processing gem, and then you move along with the ActiveStorage install. You know there's tables, you don't really pay attention to it. You configure your S3. If you're familiar with S3, then you'll know you have to provide, the read-write access to your bucket. But sometimes that's easy to miss because with S3 in particular, when you create a bucket, it's either read only or it doesn't have any like public permissions at all. I think it's completely locked down by default. So this initial setup is straightforward. It's just the gotchas along the way, and this is easy to miss too. It's just it's a good reference document, but it doesn't really serve as like a good tutorial.
Okay. So it is stable, really. It's just more of a understanding how to use it, pretty much.
A little bit of history on this. There's an older gem called Paperclip, and this one's been around for a while, but this was essentially, I don't want to say it was like completely brought in as ActiveStorage, but ActiveStorage was heavily inspired off of this, and to the point where they collaborated and they deprecated Paperclip.
Wow.
But if you read through this, like I find this is better documented, like just the different installation process and what you have to do. But they have a lot of the same syntax, like has attached file. They have file field helpers. I think they have like the same. Oh yeah, like URLs for the different variants. But I think ThoughtBot did a better job at documenting the processes than Rails. Rails just kind of like copied it and just created this huge file that it's like, yeah, I guess you can navigate it, but it's just a lot of information.
Yeah. Documentation's always a thing that developers work on.
For sure. So this is an app that I created like basically for a demo purpose, but I used this in one of my last talks to go over feature flags. But I figured this would actually be a good use case for showing photos as well. So the general idea of this app is like you can create a burger. So just like selecting the different ingredients and then just saving it. There's like really that's the only thing it does, and then you can manage the ingredients on this page. So what I'm going to do is walk through like how to set this up. So like right now we have an ingredient you can add and edit. So I'll walk through the process of setting up ActiveStorage on this, and then adding a photo field, and then being able to add, edit, and delete photos for this. So you know, to watch me code the entire time, I have already done this, but I'm just going to copy like different parts of it. So the first thing we want to do is wait. Or like looking for something in particular. Sorry, I'm looking for this. Rails ActiveStorage install. Okay. So I'll actually close the Rails server for this. Rails active storage, or yeah, active_storage.
Yeah, I find myself doing the same thing when I'm like doing stuff with active gems. It's like, is there an underscore? Is there not? Is it?
Yeah. So if I do, so I have some shortcuts, but this is get status. So if I do get status now, oh yeah, I added a gem before this call. That wasn't part of the change, but you'll see we have a new migration. If I open that file, we can look at that real quick. This is just the 3 tables I mentioned earlier: the ActiveStorage blobs, the ActiveStorage attachments, and the variant records. So from here we can just run Rails DB migrate, and that will create these new tables. So let's see what the next step be. Back to my code. Okay, so I'm going to add the image processing gem now, because I know we're going to do some image processing. And I'm going to add the AWS gem. I'm not going to hook it up to AWS yet. I'm going to show what it looks like when you save it locally, but I am going to be using that. So I'll go ahead and bundle install. Cool. So the next thing we'll do is set up, have an ingredient model, right? Yeah. So we'll say up here has one attached. Yeah, has one attached photo. And then we'll go into the first form, ingredients form. So this is the shared form between this is the shared form for the new and edit pages. I'm actually going to copy what I have here. Okay, I'll actually show more about that later. I'm going to just use the form helper for now. Okay. And I already have the libVIPs installed, so we should be able to upload. So if I come back here now and I go to this, I now have a browse thing. So I can hit browse, I can select red image, and we'll see that is now attached. When I hit save, well, would not have actually been attached, and I'll show you why. But first I'm going to, what was the ID of that? That was 1. Okay, so if I do ingredient.find 1, and I can now call ingredient.photo.attached. And that works, but it's not attached. And the reason it's not attached is because of we didn't do anything with it in the controller. So if I look at the ingredients controller, that would have been uploaded to, or that would have called this update, since it's an update action. And all we're doing here is updating the form records, but we didn't do anything with the file. So I'll copy some code from the controller. Here I actually split up like the ingredient data parameters versus the file parameters. But this is actually not, that was for deletion. I'm looking for something else. Create, you can update. Oh, I have to add photo. That's why. I'll split it up later, but really I just need to add this photo. So Rails will recognize a file parameter as well. So just pointing that out. So now if we were to reload this, upload a file, save it, come back, and I think I have to call reload, so I can reload the record to see. That just reloads it from the database, and now we see we do have a photo attached. We can't actually view it anywhere though, so we're going to solve that next. So if I go to my ingredients table, I'll copy in a new header and a new column. That's the header, and then that's the column we'll render it in. So here we're simply checking for, this is the table. So we're iterating through each ingredient and displaying its details. For the photo column, we're checking if it exists first. If it doesn't exist, then we don't want to render it. Here I actually am creating a variant for a small thumbnail, and that means I'm going to have to go back to the user model and define those variants. Yeah, so I'll copy this in as well. So this is just defining 2 variants, a small thumbnail and a large thumbnail. So when this is called, it will create that variant. I reload this now. Cannot find variant thumbs. Did I save the? Oh, I put it on the wrong table. That's why. Ingredient. There we go. Now we have the photo. You can see. Any questions so far? Kind of walking through this. Cool. So as I mentioned earlier, we can now upload photos. We can render them, but if I come to edit now, I have no way of actually seeing the different files. So I can edit the rest of the attributes here, but I can't edit the actual file. So we're going to solve that a few different ways. I guess to provide a short description of what I'm going to do before I start copying a bunch of code. First thing I want to do is render the image here so I can actually see that there's a photo attached. And if there is, then I want to provide the option to delete it. So I can click delete, but I don't want to delete it immediately. So if I click delete and I leave this page, the photo is still there. But if I save the form, then it's going to be deleted. Additionally, if I delete the photo, I want the ability to upload a new photo. That's what we're going to solve here. So I'm going to update the controller first. Really wants to copy both lines. Okay, I'll do it manually.
Alternatively, you could change that GitHub view to not what is it? It's not side by side. It's the unified view. Because I've had that issue before.
Sorry, I only heard part of that. You said I could split this in such a way where.
Yeah, if you go to the very top of the PR, there should be a way of like, yeah, if you go to the settings icon, yeah, do unified.
It's taking a bit of time to load.
Yeah. But yeah, they should basically show everything in one file. So when you should be able to copy paste, like just copy like left to right, and you won't get like the deleted stuff because the deleted code will be on the top or below, above or below it. You okay, Ryan?
It's showing he's left the meeting. I'm noticing one or two issues with the signal. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I think he's just having technical issues.
Yeah. Could be if his GitHub page was taking some time to reload as well. Maybe it's an internet problem at his end.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think we've all had that.
Yeah. I used to Oh, here we go.
There he is.
Sorry about that. I was like, yeah, I think my internet's just not good tonight. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we wondered if you're having internet problems because I was seeing some internet issues just as we were going through it. They just lasted a couple of seconds each time, but it was telling me the signal was, not coming through properly. I didn't know if it was my end or your end.
Yeah,
But it looks like
it's my end. I'm gonna try it again. If not, I can try hooking up to my phone. So
yeah, it's fine anyway. No problems because we've seen most of it so far. So
cool.
and it's
Yeah,
a really
it's-
interesting talk as well. I'm following a bit more now than I did with the last one, mainly because I know more about Ruby on Rails now and playing with the controllers and building projects.
Yeah, Rails is a huge ecosystem. That's why I thought it'd be good to give a talk like this on just something very particular, a deep dive on it.
Yeah, this is great for me. I'm really, getting a lot from this.
So feel free to stop and ask questions. Copying and pasting code for a minute here.
Right. Yeah, I may ask you to pause at 1 or 2 points where I can just read the code real quick and see exactly where you're putting it.
For sure. Delete, yeah. This we're gonna add JavaScript. Yeah, I could have also just checked out the branch, but the branch has like the full integration with S3 Rapids. I kind of want to walk through each part of it. So let's see. Process photo variants. Where's that one being used? Do that later.
I think what I've seen some other people do, like I don't remember who specifically, but like they'll have like different branches for like different steps. Like if they have exercise, if they're doing like an online course or something along those lines.
Oh, so it's just check out like different. I see like have a branch for like different steps of the way along the process.
Yeah,
That's a good.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that saves time for sure. Let me have it. I already have the index, and then okay, I think that's it. All right, let's try reloading this. Cool. So now we have just a demo. Wait, is that fully working? Should be. Yeah, no, something went wrong. JavaScript error. I am showing the photo. Page file delete. Oh, delete. Yeah, worst case, I'll just check out the branch. I jump out of it, like force reload. Go into it. Stage file delete. Oh, I know what it is. It's my CSS. I had install Font Awesome too, for like a delete button.
Oh, so you're like missing an icon?
There should be a delete icon up there. So I ended up having to do that. And Yeah, I should have just checked out the branch.
Hmm.
I'm going to close that. I'm going to close that. I'll bundle.
Which I don't know if you know this, Mike, but bundle is basically just a shortcut for bundle install. It's the same thing.
Yeah, good call out
Right.
there.
Yeah, I figured it was. I was expecting the first time Ryan did it, I was expecting him to put bundle install and which is normally what I'd put, but it's useful to see the shortcuts. Like Rails S. I got onto that a while ago, but it's handy stuff like that, so you don't have to type Rails server every time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Options for bundle, like you could do like bundle update, bundle config. But yeah, and I see this with most package tools where if you don't give it an argument, it'll just run install.
Right. Oh, I see. So anything else, you have to put the specific thing you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a handy shortcut, actually.
So
So the Oracle X was missing before.
Yeah, I was looking for this. Let me click on it, gets rid of it, and if I were to save it, see it's gone. I'll actually reload the page just to confirm.
Right.
To come back in here and
yeah,
same thing.
So now you have, from what you were saying, you've got the option to add a new photo if you want.
Yeah, and I wanted to show this specifically because this feels like more expected functionality with the form. Like you're able to edit everything else here, but you can't edit the photo. So
yeah, I agree. That's certainly something a restaurant guy is going to want if he's using it.
Exactly. So, and if you were to save it, nothing would happen. So yeah, I do want to walk through this code.
Right.
So starting with the controller. So before we were just taking the parameters to update. So that includes the photos. If you're adding a new photo, that will get uploaded. But we also have a file parameters here. So add a new one called purge photos. And basically, if this is present, then I'm going to call a method to purge the photos. So yeah, if it's present and the file ID essentially matches what's currently attached, then you can purge it. So you can always get like the blob ID, and that's like the local.
Yeah, blob. That was the one that goes with it. Yeah.
And then, yeah, let me just look up. So yeah, here's the update. So this will only delete the photo if it's marked for deletion. And the way that works, if I look at the form now, there's a few things going on. So I'll write this up just a little bit and highlight it. Mm-hmm. So if there is a photo attached, then we're going to render it using the image tag helper. We're going to show the large thumb variant. And then the button that was failing to render earlier. So there's a button. I have it stylized, and I have an icon that shows like a delete button. When you click on it, it's going to run a JavaScript function, stage file delete. So I'll look at that in a minute. But essentially, that's going to add the photo ID as a hidden input field. So essentially, if I come back here and I inspect the form, this right here, moved it, but this input that I have.
Yeah, I can see hidden there in the code.
So it's part of the form. You can imagine it like a hidden text input field, but essentially it's we don't render it, but it has data that will be submitted when I save the form.
Right.
So that JavaScript is basically saying add that photo ID to the hidden field, and then when you submit it, that will
Yeah, so that basically helps it identify what you want to purge.
Exactly.
Right.
And then you'll notice if I hit delete, I now have the browse button again, and that's also controlled by JavaScript. But that essentially renders the file field again.
Right. Okay.
You can delete the photo and replace it with a new photo.
Yeah.
And if we don't have any photos attached to begin with, then we'll just same thing, show that file.
Okay.
And then looking at the JavaScript a little bit, targets just the element that clicked it. The blob ID is the photo ID that I passed in, so that matches to the second argument here, ingredient.photo.id.
Right.
And then the first thing I'm doing is finding an element by ID, ingredient purge photos. So that's the identifier of the hidden input field. It's a little bit confusing because you just have form hidden field here. We didn't explicitly give it an ID, but it's a derived ID essentially based
Okay.
off the table name. So there's something because it's like table name plus the file field that I gave it.
Right. Okay.
And then existing photo container, that's the button I clicked. That's like the next element up. So that's going to be
Right.
and then the new photo container, new photo container is finding this new photo field class. So that is this, and then we're removing the existing container and we're hiding the new one. So that's saying that everything, when I click that, basically everything in here goes away, and then this becomes present.
Right.
That's usually all it does. Pretty light JavaScript, just doing some DOM manipulation and setting an attribute for on hidden field.
Okay.
So that's essentially it on the edit page. And the next thing I want to cover is actually how to use AWS. So all along, if I do clear this prompt, if I do ls here, I have a storage folder, and I've been running.
Those are all your photos there, then.
Yeah, they're remnant files from
Right.
from other uploads that I've done. A lot of these are empty, but if I were to do like things like ls tree, I don't remember the command, but yeah, I will go into. But essentially, one of these folders has the current file that we have uploaded.
You can actually do ls space dash capital R, I think, and it'll do a recursive. Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, I don't want. Our storage. Yeah, so if I were to open that, for example. Oh, no. Yeah, that's actually a photo that I uploaded. But yeah, essentially it's just the different photos. So
Oh, this bread is making me hungry.
I'm about to get dinner after this stuff.
I know.
I ate dinner already, so I guess I'm in a stronger position.
Lucky.
Yeah, that's why I was slightly late for the meeting. We stopped. We took my car in today to get a new seat cover made for it because the leather split. So took a long time to get back and everything because there's a great big hole in San Jose at the moment, about 12 feet deep, because they had a water main burst.
Yikes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's affecting the traffic all around the area.
That's weird. I drive up there usually like every week. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, it was our first time today. I did see something about there being an issue at it's Clare Lane and San Jose, so right up just before 295.
Okay, that makes sense.
there in the rush hour, you're going to see maybe a 6-minute delay or so.
Yeah, I went up there a few weeks ago, and but I went up like through 295, and yeah, the traffic up there can be pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I often go the back way. There is a back way, which is a lot less hassle, slightly longer, but less hassle.
For sure. So, yeah, hook this up to AWS. Really, it's as simple as uncommenting this, setting the details. So, service is S3. Give it the access key, and then your bucket and reach it. I won't go into trying to configure S3 tonight, but yeah, you basically just give it the details and it's good to go.
Right.
In each environment, you have to configure what you want to use. So throughout the demo, we've been using local. So I'm going to switch this over to Amazon. And what's going to happen here, if I restart this,
Okay.
this should actually did not get that right. Would have expected that not to load. Oh, I might have previously had this attached, and that's why it's loading now.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
But you can see it does still work. And then oh yeah, I did have another piece of code that I wanted to show. So you'll notice here that it does take a little time to load. So I'll show that again actually. So if I upload this and then watch when I load the index page, it takes a few seconds to load here. And then same thing here when I load this, like it doesn't take that long, but it takes a little longer to load than it did before. So before we were just basically saving it to the local folder. So then it was able to load up instantly. But now that we're saving it to S3, it's making an API request to the S3 server. And then when you want to download it again, it's taking some time to come back. And what's happening is what I discovered. If I look at the form. So the form in particular, calling ingredient at photo.variant. When it's called in the view the first time, as I mentioned earlier, the first time this is called for this particular variant is when the variant will be created and uploaded to S3 and then re-downloaded to render, right? So if this has been loaded, so if I were to reload this now, it still takes a half a second, but it's pretty much loading instantly. So I discovered a way to make this a little bit faster. Not faster per se, but move that upload process to happen when it uploads, essentially. So if I go back to my model, I created a function process photo variants. So after commit, just to clarify what this means, this is a function that will run anytime the record creates or saves, but only after it inserts into the database. So this would be like after any validations have gone through, and then after the entire database transaction completes, it will attempt to call this function. So here's the function here. Process photo variants. And if there's already a photo attached, then we've already run this before, so we don't want to run it every single time. But you can call photo.variant, and then I forget the documentation on process, but this essentially forces it to process immediately as opposed to asynchronously. So functionally, you won't see any difference. But if I were to like reload this, I'll delete it and add another one. And this will take like maybe a second more to save here. But yeah, like it took a little bit, but then it loaded instantly here. And when I come back to edit, it loads pretty instantly here as well. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I think I'll go back to my slides. Yeah, just like have a few resources here. I'll link these slides to the meetup after the chat, but definitely do read the documentation. It is good. But as I showed here, there are a few gotchas with ActiveStorage setup that I wanted to call out, especially as it pertains to the edit form. So yeah, any questions?
Do you know offhand if there's a way to like set a URL so it's short-lived? Like it has a DTL. In other words, because there are certain resources, like you want to give someone a link, but you don't want it to live forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So from ActiveStorage, you'll just use the URL for to get the resource, to get a link for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the time to live isn't controlled by ActiveStorage. So I know S3.
Okay.
Follow URL for it's going to give you like an S3 link if you're using S3. But that time to live will be configured there. I know S3 is like short-lived links. There's a way to configure that.
Yeah, we use a lot of AWS stuff at work. So, and I know we do have like we have a whole like gem just for media at work that we've done a bunch of stuff with. So yeah, I just know that we've encountered a few things, and like I think that was one of the things. I don't remember, but I know one of the things was like ACLs, like because you want certain media, certain uploads, you want them to be private versus public and things like that, and so yeah. But I don't remember. Like I do actually think all that stuff on AWS side of things, but I don't know. I was just curious if there was any like mechanism for setting that via ActiveStorage, and having it pass through or anything like that. But if considering ActiveStorage is kind of like a generic layer on top of all these other ones, it would make sense if it's not there. If they, unless everything supports it, which they probably don't. So, okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, I know it's a thing. I was on a project many years ago where the folder was essentially private, but whenever we made it, we had some kind of hashing system. I have no idea how it was set up. I didn't set it up, but essentially when Rails made a request to it, with the access keys and everything, it would get a link back, but that link would only be valid for like under 5 seconds. So essentially, if I did the URL for and I got the link, I wouldn't be able to use it. But if I wanted to render it in the app, I would be Rails would be able to get a link, download the file, and render it. But you just couldn't like pass those images around.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, excellent question.
Cool. Oh yeah, and the other thing I wanted to ask was like deleted files. Like when you delete a file via ActiveStorage, does that actually delete it'll delete the record, I'm guessing, in the database, but will it delete the actual file wherever it's stored to, or is that something you need to control somewhere else?
You're saying if I were to delete the record entirely, would it delete the file?
Like you delete the bread, like if you delete that bread image, will it? I mean, it'll probably delete the image reference in the database, but will it actually delete the actual file like that you uploaded to S3 or wherever you uploaded it, even if you did it locally?
Just console. Forgot to show this part. It just lets me in. That just let me in.
Come on, S3, just let him in.
Yep, I kind of go through the Authy now and sign it. This is good. This is fine.
Yeah, we have to do the same thing at work.
I did this the other day, and like I know what I set my password to, and it didn't work. I had to like go through the whole thing of like resetting my password.
Oh yeah, we do the same thing. Like I think our passwords expire like every 6 months or something, or at least they used to. I don't know. No, they still do. They still do. I was thinking the key because my S3 key was more than 6 months old, and I was like, "What's going on?" So I just refreshed it anyway because
my original keys were valid, and so I hadn't been here in like a year and a half, so I don't really use AWS. We use it for work, but I never have to like log into it. So I'm logging into mine for the first time in a couple of years, and I had to reset the password because the password wasn't it expired. So when I logged in, I still have my old access keys for projects I don't even know. I don't remember what they were for, so I had to kill those keys. But it's completely backwards. The keys were still valid, but my password to get into the console was, yeah, I had to reset that. So
yeah.
this is the bucket. It's currently empty because we deleted it. So I'll show if I were to upload and save that. It should save the original plus the variants. So there's a small thumbnail and a large thumbnail. So if I were to reload this now, there should be 3 files. Yeah, so 3 different files now for the original plus the variant. You could see the different file sizes for each. And then if I were to delete it now and save, that's going to purge the original file plus the variant. So if I were to now refresh this, it's yeah, it's empty.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
And
just asking because I know at one point we did have an issue with that. Actually, like we found out that we were just deleting the stuff in the database, but we weren't actually deleting the actual files on S3. And I don't think that was deliberate. It was just something we didn't catch. So it was like, great. So yeah, that's why I was asking.
we're using like carrier wave, or we're using like ActiveStorage.
We've used a bunch of different things all in different places, so I don't even know specifically.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was another project a while ago where we like, I think we were still on Paperclip, and I forget like the exact issue, but we renamed a table in the database to something else, and it had file references in S3, but we found out that the file identifiers were dependent on the table name. So whenever the app loaded the files, it wouldn't get pulled from S3. We kept getting like file not found. We're getting like 404s from S3 essentially. And we were digging around for like about a week, and then we found out, oh, the mechanism it uses to create identifiers, because it's basically a hash, is like an encrypted hash. We found out that the encrypted hash, when you upload, it generates that based off of the table name and the record ID. And
so this wasn't your own code. This was like, or was it? Like what was the code that actually did that determined that? You know what I mean? That used the table name or things like that.
It was in Paperclip.
Oh yeah, no wonder it took forever. Because gem code's always hard to track down because it's not yours.
Exactly. So if I were to look at ActiveStorage hashment, like I think I call it the last, get the last one to show as a reference. So like this just links the blob in the record, right? But if I look at the blob, this is what has information about how to retrieve the file. So like it has the file name and the content type. But then you have a key and you have a checksum. And Paperclip did something similar with this key. And the way this was generated, which might be the case here actually. I haven't tried reproducing that scenario, but essentially the way the key was generated for retrieval was based off of the table name. So like if the table name changed, then you wouldn't be able to retrieve the file. I don't think that would be the case here because this is stored in a table. So if I were to like rename the upstream table, like the ingredients table, this particular record would still be in the database with this key. I think Paperclip might have like just generated this key on the fly, with just as needed and not actually stored it. I think that might have been the problem. Now that I'm thinking about it. I think now I'm curious. If I were to delete this record entirely, does this still exist? This should be kind of hoping this will be empty. Yeah. That's another feature you get out of the box of ActiveStorage, I guess. So if you upload a file associated with a record like that, and then you delete that record, any attachments it has will be deleted as well.
Ah, cool.
Sweet. Any other questions? Why should I do that? It's sharing the meat. Cool. I'll stop presenting. Yeah, this has been fun. This is a very deep topic for me. I've had like multiple experiences just doing weird things with this, and I always run into errors with this. So this is not a comprehensive talk on the topic, but definitely want to get people introduced to it because it's a good tool, but there's definitely gotchas.
Yeah, it was real interesting for me to see it. I really enjoyed this demo.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was basically interested in the talk mainly because, like, even though we're also on Rails 7 at work, we're still using like we're not really using the newer Rails stuff that's come out like in the last few versions. Like we're not using ActiveStorage, we're not using Action Cable or anything along those lines. So I'm curious like what those do, how those work, all that kind of stuff. So is there anything we're missing out on?
Yeah, for sure. I had someone request a while ago migrate an app from Carrier to ActiveStorage. So definitely important to like understand how those work in context. So.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's probably a pretty common case because I think Carrier is actually what we use at least in one of our apps. I need to check, but yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I had another job one time. I think it was like with a client, and they were storing all their files locally on the server. They had like a DigitalOcean server, and throughout their history, they were like an older app. They like started in 2014, and like throughout their history, like users would upload photos. Actually, mostly like small documents, mostly like either small images or like small Word documents or PDFs. And over time, they just kept upgrading the server because they thought it was using too much memory, but they didn't have any full-time developers that were like actually watching it. So, but what was actually happening was they're uploading files and they were storing them locally to the same disk as the Rails server. So I had to help migrate them over to S3 to free up some server resources.
Yeah. I could definitely see that being an issue, all depending on, the size of your storage and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like not a huge deal in the beginning. Like if you're just getting your small app, you're starting up, and you buy like, I don't know, 50 gigs of disk space. I mean, it'll go a long way, but as your user base starts increasing, that can easily get out of hand.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like they say, it's a good problem to have. It's a problem you want to have, actually, because it shows you being successful, ideally.
Yeah,
But yeah,
you gotta be aware of it because when it comes around, like you have to solve it. I didn't know about it until like this client messaged me like, "Hey, the app is down. It's totally not working." Like just out of the blue, and it took
uh-oh.
me like 3 days to figure out why I was, because I turned the app off, restarted, it was fine, and then it would go down again, and it just so happened the disk itself was full. And then originally I thought like, okay, that's weird. Then I did a full scan of the disk and realized, oh, there's this. I think they even put it like inside the public folder of all things. It was like deep inside the public folder was another directory that held all the files for the app.
Hmm.
So anybody could see that then?
No, it was local to the server.
Ah, right.
So it just meant that the Rails server was running on the same machine as files were being stored on.
Right.
Which of a cloud server, it meant that whenever they run out of disk space, you have to just keep upgrading it. So they go like 50 gigs to 70 gigs or 100 gigs. Monthly bill just keeps increasing.
Yeah, that's the problem there. A lot of people, have to watch that.
Yep.
Because they don't, they have cost restrictions and all that. Like actually at work, we're going off. We're on Sentry right now for tracking our errors and all that stuff. And Sentry's prices are